Here as well. All right, there we go. So 3, 2, and 1. Well, Gaylene, we have survived winter, but both of us have decided it's better off to hunker down here for the next few hours yet at least. So welcome, Mayor's Monday here at WSAU.com. Obviously, things have been pretty hopping over in Rib Mountain. Not only do you have the incorporation, which is still going on right now, but you've had some big announcements regarding Rib Mountain Drive. One retailer actually, they're coming back into Wisconsin, but they're making their first stop right here in Rib Mountain. Tell us what you know about the Sportsman's Warehouse.
Yes, Sportsman Warehouse is coming to Rib Mountain and coming back to Wisconsin. It's great to be able to have an empty store. So, when you have some of the changes that have happened into the retail industry and having that big box and that big box empty, it is good to know that there is something that we have a home for. And that is something that our contacts with Larry Nifong, who owns the property development Nifong Realty, I know they were actively pursuing a tenant for that space, and it was good to know that we have somebody who is filling the larger of that empty tenant space that is along Rib Mountain Drive.
Yeah, because a lot has been made recently about the way that retail's going, the traditional retail shopping experience. Some people might say it's not exactly what it was. Some people might say that it's dead, but you're still filling, stores on Rib Mountain Drive. Not only do you have stores that are doing well there, but you're finding stores that want to come into the area. And again, as we mentioned, in the case of Sportsman's Warehouse, they're a brand that has been in Wisconsin but left, and now they're coming back and actually kind of expanding again, because they've had several new locations in the last few years.
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah, and I know the store in Coon Rapids, Minnesota, is within the last 4 years or so, and now we've got one coming here. So, what can people expect, I guess, out of Sportsman's Warehouse? Have you had the chance to kind of do a deep dive into them as they're preparing to take over that space?
Just a little sneak peek. He's kind of checked it out. We had obviously we probably knew before others that this was going to be coming down the pipe, but
Mm-hmm.
respect to the retailer and their release of information. But I think it absolutely goes true to what we're about in North Central Wisconsin, which is outdoor recreation. And this fills that, again, the tourism part of everything, and for those that live here. And we know that fishing, hunting, outdoor camping, etc., those are things that are important for us in our area, in our region. And so this will absolutely fit well to our local economy. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So then when do you anticipate the opening? Is that going to be this summer, correct?
It'll be early summer from my understanding. Some of the work is being done inside the building, and then some of the changeover will happen during the month of May. And sometime after that, there'll be an opening. I do not have that information. That would be something that would have to come directly from corporate.
Okay, gotcha. But hey, I think there's a lot of people that are looking forward to having this location here in Red Mountain, and like you said, it fits really nicely with what we're about here in Central Wisconsin, and obviously fits very well with the town as well. I keep thinking in my mind I'm going to say village, but again, not yet. It's still the town of Red Mountain. We'll get to that in just a bit. But I know you've got some other vacancies that are either in progress of being vacant or are vacant right now on Rib Mountain Drive. So where would you say you are in kind of filling the spaces there on Rib Mountain Drive, or at least getting as close to capacity as you can as far as retail and restaurant space goes?
We're almost already there. Some of the larger development, for example, with the bank, I think it was Nicolay Bank that was originally on Rib Mountain Drive right next to Slumberland, had been empty. Now that is filled. There, I believe, is we have law services, a law firm, and as well, I believe, as a financial advisement is located in there. So that's nice. And with the closure of the downtown mall, some of the tenants from them came down and filled up some of the spaces near Best Buy building area. So those are relatively filled. I think there's one small slight one that might be vacant yet. And then obviously, when I mentioned Larry Nifong Realty has development for Barnes and Noble. They filled up that tenant space between Joann Fabrics and Barnes and Noble. And obviously, outside of that, we know that Bed Bath and Beyond at some point in time will be leaving our community. But I have the utmost confidence in Nifong Realty. They're the ones that brought in Sportsman Warehouse. I am not too concerned. I believe that they will find a tenant for that in a short amount of time, because we are aware that there are other retailers that want to make North Central Wisconsin, Rib Mountain their home. So we know that there is a absolute need in this area. So, and plus
Mhm.
Rib Mountain Drive being the location that it is with the amount of traffic and amount of already retailers along the drive certainly
Mhm.
makes it enticing for others to come.
Yeah, indeed. And that kind of goes into my next question here. And I say this in part with my tongue planted in my cheek and in part seriously. What's the secret in Rib Mountain? I mean, what do you got going on there that makes a lot of these businesses so successful in a time when, again, the traditional retail shopping experience has certainly changed?
It's location, location, location. When you have a north, south, east, west exits, two of them within this area, that certainly makes you prime. So you almost have success built on success. So when you have something like when you have Walmart and Sam's, and then you combined it with the other development that comes with it, that builds on each other. Also, Rib Mountain has invested quite a bit of money onto Rib Mountain Drive to make sure that we have an upkeep of our road, that we provide the uh, facilities that want to make sure that the infrastructure is there to support that development. And that would hold true. We are going to be working on Lilac Avenue. So that's the other part of it, just right off of Rib Mountain Drive. Again, providing that infrastructure support that makes retailers want to come, or business want to come, because they're not going to come unless you have that stuff, have that facilities there and available for them.
Yeah, indeed. And again, we look forward to seeing what's to come because I know there's one brand in particular that I'm really excited for. We'll talk about that in just a bit here. But again, as I mentioned, in my mind, I guess I'm already switching over from the town of Rib Mountain to the village of Rib Mountain. You're hoping that that becomes reality sometime in the next few months here. Last time we talked to you, you were maybe at that 75% mark with incorporation. Has that needle moved a little further to the right here recently?
Yeah, we're getting closer. We had our public hearing in January with the Department of Administration and Corporation Board. We did what we could to present the biggest and best case of why the town submittals should be accepted for incorporation and move to that next stage of being a village. We hit everything. They did ask for some additional information as part of that public hearing. We submitted that last week, Friday. I had a phone conversation with the Department of Administration staff today just to confirm they received our information. And so they were satisfied with the information we did submit. So that's good to know that we addressed their questions that they had. And they actually have posted our additional information on their website. We also have it available on our incorporation page. So the next step is on April 6th, we have a meeting with the Department of Administration and Corporation Board. We cannot really necessarily prep for it because we're not sure what questions they're going to ask. I
Hmm.
get the impression that they will be asking the questions that kind of surround what we submitted as our addendum, which is basically the what we call the territory beyond the core. It's the area that would be considered the less developed areas, and the justification for us to incorporate the entire town. And as we argued with, or now we say argued, as we pointed out to stay in our submittal and also addendum, is we got a lot of challenges outside our main developed area, and outside of the developed area is public lands. We got a huge state park and a huge county forestry in our community. We have wetlands. We have steep slopes, and you put all that combination into that it makes it very challenging to have huge amounts of growth outside your main territory. So it kind of puts in the argument of meeting what the state requirement is and gives us that accept what they would consider a exception. So that's what we're
Oh,
working
sure.
on with the state. Yep.
So there might be some areas here that you're not quite hitting the mark on, but you're hoping that they'll give you a pass because, okay, this land over here, we can't build a house on it because it's sloped. It is literally a mountain. That's where the name comes from, right?
Right, yeah, there's some challenges to what the state requires for territory beyond the core. They anticipate you're going to have massive growth in 3 years, and that's certainly not going to happen because of limited environmental, what we call ESAs, environmental sensitive areas. It's not something that can necessarily happen in that short period of time. So therefore, we have to, on our end of the submittal, have to explain and prove why we can't. And so it gives us again, the exception to ask for the state. And that's nothing new. That's something that's done by several municipalities when they go through the incorporation. So
Mhm.
we're getting there.
Yeah,
We're getting
yeah, you're getting, and again, if I remember right, when we talked to the incorporation review board last month, I just asked them, "Hey, how often do you do this? How often do you go through this process? Is this something that you know really well?" And they said, "No, we it happens once or twice a year, but it's still a very thorough process that they've kind of got down pat, and they've got everything that they want to see, and they're very thorough about it."
Yep, absolutely. They have to make sure we meet the standards, and that's what we're doing on our part, is making sure that we meet the standards that is outlined for incorporation. So they're doing their due diligence, and we are doing ours on our end to make sure that we're hitting everything that they asked us to do, and make that justification for the entire community to incorporate into a village.
And then I know the last couple of big steps in this process is going to be there has to be something that goes through the courts. And the court then will actually be setting a date for a public referendum. So you'll actually have to have an election on this where every registered voter in the town gets their say, correct?
That is correct. So we have to do our part once the determination, we're looking at a determination date of May 5th. They actually technically have until the 6th, but my guess is might receive it the day before because it's a Friday. And from there, it goes back to circuit court, and circuit court just makes it the date for the referendum vote. And then on our end, it's as far as our staff is concerned, we have to help educate the public on what does that mean. And we've been kind of doing that. We have during elections, for the last couple elections, we have a table set up so that as the voters come in, we have information on latest things that are going on in the community, including the incorporation. And because we almost have that captive audience when they're coming in to vote, and we provide information to the residents as they come in and ask questions. And it's really nice because it's a back and forth kind of feedback from the residents with staff.
Indeed. And for some of the residents, it's going to be a very small change. I think if I remember right, you've told us before the biggest change is actually going to be something to do with the water utility. It might change where the water bill gets paid. But for a lot of people, they might not notice anything other than the sign when they're coming in and off of Interstate 39.
That is correct. We're actually operating as a village right now. We have considered village powers. So again, we have a relationship with Marathon County Sheriff's Department. That's not going to change at all. So we'll continue to have law enforcement services, and that's obviously to meet state statute too, as well. But I want to be clear, our relationship and our contract with Marathon County Sheriff's Department was already in play prior to incorporation, and working with the Marathon County Sheriff's Department with hiring of deputies would have happened outside of incorporation either way.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to seeing where this goes over the next few weeks. We'll certainly be following this and again doing what we can to educate the residents about why this matters to them. One more thing, then, before we let you go, are you going to be my Chick-fil-A savior? Now, I have to frame this because I missed Chick-fil-A in Sioux Falls by about a year and a half. Chick-fil-A opened in Sioux Falls a year and a half after I moved up here from our office in Sioux Falls. I said, my job in central Wisconsin is not going to be done until we have Chick-fil-A. How close are we to making my dream a reality?
So we're still working with the developer. Obviously, it's a big change for our community as far as working in that area close to the interchange and making sure that egress ingress is going to work correctly, because yeah, Chick-fil-A is pretty popular, and we got to make sure that things run smoothly for our community and continue to make it a place that is safe and people want to visit. So we want to make their experience at Chick-fil-A, if we're fortunate enough to have things come together as we have hoped and planned, then we can make it something that is a good experience for somebody coming to our community and coming off the highway and say, yeah, there's a Chick-fil-A. Let's hit the Chick-fil-A before we head north or something.
Absolutely. And from what I understand, again, all kidding aside, this is a lot of it's got to do with kind of the drive up. Will there be enough room in the drive-through in that area, and will it be visually pleasing enough coming down off of the off ramp into Rib Mountain Drive? Is that correct?
Yep, we got to make sure that the queuing is correctly and making sure that they also benefit as when Chick-fil-A were to come, to make sure that their customers have a good experience, that they're not going to get frustrated and say, I'll never go to that Chick-fil-A again. We just want to make sure that everybody has a good experience all around for everybody, not only just that particular development, but the development that also is already there, and then also any future development that's going to continue to happen in that area.
So I don't want to be begging in this sense, but could you just work on a backup plan so that way if this location doesn't work out, you can say, hey, we've got this other location. Could you consider this? I would take it in my front yard if that were possible, but I don't think there's enough room for a drive-through there. So just for me, please.
We are doing our best to make sure that this type of restaurant, Chick-fil-A, would be again coming to our community. I think it would be popular. It would be a wonderful addition as far as continuing to make Rib Mountain Drive and Rib Mountain and Lilac Avenue to what it is. So that's important to overall kind of putting us on the map that way. And we will do what we can. Again, we have a good ongoing relationship and working with everybody involved and making sure everything is coming together. So stay tuned. It's come. We're working on things. So it's always fun. These projects get announced sometimes, like with Sportsman Warehouse, you're aware of it. You can't, nothing's said and you can't say anything. And then there's other things like Chick-fil-A that comes out and it's like, when's that coming? And I'm like, wait a minute, you heard that 6 months ago. So sometimes these things happen just like that. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're announced right away. Sometimes they're not. So it's kind of crazy sometimes how things, at the end, it's amazing. It does come together.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Gaylene, we appreciate the time. Again, good luck with the process on incorporation. I'm sure we'll be chatting with you again sometime before that final decision comes down.
Okay, very good. Thank you.